Hello, everyone, and welcome to Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and it's that time of the year again. This is officially, after 40 something years of existing, I have come to the realization that Halloween is my favorite time of the year. It isn't because of the spooky ghosts and goblins and all that other good stuff, trick or treating and haunted houses. That doesn't appeal to me per se. But it's just something about horror movies that makes this time of the year more special than any other time of the year. Now, don't get me wrong. I love all the other holidays. I love Christmas. I love Thanksgiving. I love Easter. I love New Year's. I love all of that. All of that is fine. But it's the movie aspect of it all. It's the film aspect of it all. It's the horror movies that just makes this time of the year super special. I mean, think about it. Now, you probably realize this already, a lot of you out there listening, but you know, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, so I'm a little slow when it comes to things. But this came to my realization. Just think about it. Around Christmas, yeah, you have your Christmas movies. You have some cute little Christmas movies that come out. At Thanksgiving, you have some family films that come out. But around October, it starts popping with the horror movies, man. I mean, everything is horror. Even when it comes to television shows, they do. At least back in my day, they had sitcoms, and they'll have a Halloween episode. They'll have, the episodes that focused on stuff like that. A spooky little episode on television shows, whether it's a sitcom, drama, a procedural, a police procedural, whatever it may be. You always find a Halloween special, and I just love those movies. I am a scary cat. I can admit that now too. I am a big scary cat. Hate to be scared, but love to be scared all at the same time. It must be some type of secret taboo or fetish that I have. I don't know what it is, but I love to get scared. I love scary movies. I mean, shoot me. I grew up on them. And I grew up in the era of slashers, with the Freddys and the Jasons and the Mike Myers and so on and so forth. That was my bag. I just love those movies. And as I got older, I start to realize that around mid September or late September, I start anticipating what horror movies are coming out next month. What new horror movie will come out next month. Some good, some bad, even the bad ones. And this is the only genre of film where it can be bad. The movie could be bad, but you still enjoy it for what it is. It's hard to review horror movies. I've found doing this show for the last few years. It's hard to review a horror film because horror films are kind of like critique proof. It's weird because they know what they are. They're not in it for awards consideration or by any stretch. They're just there to do what it's supposed to do: gross you out, scare you, and everything else. And there are so many different subgenres in horror nowadays. It isn't just straight up horror. It isn't straight up slasher. The killer running after you with a butcher knife and all this here. There's other ones, and for some strange reason, I've been thinking about this all year, highly anticipating doing these shows for this month because we're doing 4 episodes this month, a 4-part Halloween special, and we're gonna go over 4 different subgenres within horror, and these aren't like the greatest genres, or my favorites because I love them all. These are just the first 4 that popped in my mind when I was preparing to do these shows. And I wanted to talk about it, and review a film out of these subgenres that we can have some fun with. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, having fun. Go and see a horror movie in the theater is such a communal thing. You know, it feels so good to go see a horror film where everybody is reacting to it, having fun with it, laughing. Normally when people laugh in a horror film, they get scared. That's their reaction when they're around a group of people. It's the laugh instead of a scream, and it got you when you laugh, or giggle, or smile, or something. Some type of emotion will come out of you. And so, in this first part one of our 2025 Halloween special, we are going to discuss found footage horror films. And found footage horror films, it isn't new. It isn't something that just came along when the Blair Witch Project came out. Found footage films has been around since the 60s. But somebody had the bright idea. Hey, let's make horror. Let's make some horror films out. And it was a brilliant idea because one is cheap. It's not expensive to make because it's shaky cam. And that's another thing. I hate shaky cam. I can't stand shaky cam at least when it's not done right. There are some filmmakers that knows how to use shaky cam correctly. One comes to mind is Paul Greengrass. He knows how to use shaky cam. He directed The Bourne Supremacy. I forgot which ones. I think he directed 2 of the Bourne films. But he knows how to use it. I like the way he uses the camera. Yeah, it really puts you in the action as opposed of shaky cam where they do that technique to kind of hide the stunt work or hide the visual effects or just stupid stuff. It gives me a headache, You probably have, if you suffer from seizures or something like that, you'll probably go crazy watching some of these shaky cam films. But if used properly, it can work. And most, not all, but most of these horror films that do the found footage, that do the shaky cam technique, work. And it's exciting, because it actually puts you in the action. It puts you in the horror. It's like a first person shooter game. And you can't help but become our protagonist or hero in the story, and it just adds an extra level of horror to the films. And so, in honor or in collaboration with the discussion of found footage horror films, we're going to review a film at the end of this episode that just came out, fresh out the presses. And it is VHS Halloween, which is the 8th installment in that franchise. We'll get to it, but it is the perfect film to fit in the discussion that we have today. But when you talk about found footage films, it's most commonly associated with horror, especially lately. But if you really go back, found footage films, they span 1961, I think, was the first found footage film, and that was from an experimental director, Shirley Clarke, who directed the film The Connection. Never seen it, but it's a found footage film of sorts. In 1969, there was another film, Coming Apart, but the one that really broke it open, the one that really brought found footage horror films to the forefront, was in 1980, and that was Cannibal Holocaust. If you haven't seen that film, it's okay, because not too many people have seen that film. That film came out in 1980, and it was pretty much banned everywhere because due to the fact of it being a found footage film, a lot of people believed it was real. It was an Italian horror film, and when it was released, it was the target of a lot of censorship, and not just from people, but also animal activists as well, due to the graphic nature of the film. It just had tons of graphic gore, and the film contains several scenes with sexual violence and general cruelty to animals that just took it completely off the rails for people in 1980 and probably still today. The movie is still considered one of the most controversial films ever made. But due to this notoriety, Cannibal Holocaust has been marketed as being banned in over 50 countries. And I think in 2006, it was named as the 20th most controversial film of all time by Entertainment Weekly. I don't know what the other 19 are, but I can't imagine these films. They're probably stuff that deal with children and stuff like that, so I could probably understand. But this was very graphic, and I've never seen the movie, but I've seen stills and little clips because they don't show everything. It's hard to find a movie. I heard about this movie years ago. I tried to search it up, tried to find it, can't find it. Can't find it nowhere because I was curious. Still is. You know, this is gonna sound crazy, but I would love to watch the movie just to see how bad it is. I mean, it was 1980. That's 45 years ago. I don't think it was. Well, I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I'll leave it. I'll leave judgment out of it. I don't know. Probably when I see it, it will be completely bonkers. Because honestly, back then, we didn't have the filters that we have now. Because I remember, and I seen this movie recently. I'm talking about remember like it was 40 years ago. It probably was 40 years ago the first time I watched it. But I just seen this movie maybe a month and a half ago, just randomly on HBO or something like that. Scanners. And I remember the first time I saw Scanners, and it, no pun intended, blew my mind. It messed me up because I couldn't believe what I was watching on screen. I was wondering how they did all of that. This was in the 80s. You know, I don't think filmmakers today, at least not all of them, can master that type of body horror, you know, with head exploding. And one scene in particular, and this isn't a found footage film, but it's on, you know, it's on point with what I'm talking about. The scene when Revik first used it on the guy and made his head explode, and I watched a YouTube video about that, and they analyzed and broke down that scene and how the head exploded and how the editing was so perfect and so so good and crisp that you can't tell where the cut happened. You cannot, and they slowed it up frame by frame. It was that good of an edit, and where the head exploded between the real person and the head exploding. It makes you wonder: did they explode the man head on for the sake of the film? Yeah, but back then you could get away with all that stuff. So it probably isn't as cruel as we think now, you know, looking at it through 2025 eyes, because we've seen so much, you know, at least those of us of a certain age, we've seen so much in film and sadly in real life. And so we kind of desensitized in a way when it comes to movies of that ilk. But yeah, Cannibal Holocaust is probably the first, well, not probably, it is the first found footage horror film to be released. Now, to find one that was more mainstream, they had some sprinkled in the 80s, maybe 4 or 5. I think there was one in Japan, if I'm not mistaken, about UFO abductions. I think I'm probably getting it mixed up, but they had one in the 80s with like that, in that style. It had maybe a couple of more in the early 90s, but the genre really took off in 1999. That's when stuff really got real, and it just broke open the doors in this subgenre of horror. In 1999, you got the Blair Witch Project, and I was there for it all. I remember the marketing for this. I remember going to the theater opening weekend to see it and leaving out with a migraine. I left out with a migraine because I didn't realize that the whole movie was going to be found footage, because I've never seen a movie like that up to this point. And I'm like, what is the whole movie like that? Midway through, I'm like, what? There are no lockdown cameras in this movie. But everything was found footage. And once again, a lot of people believe this is real. I think there are people walking around today that believe this movie is real, even though the actors have come out. I know for years to keep the illusion or kayfabe of it all. It was part of their contracts to kind of be incognito for a few years. I forgot how long. They couldn't do any other movies because the actress in the film, can't think of her name right now, but she spoke out about it recently about how it kind of ruined her career. Even though this movie was what it was, it ruined her career because she couldn't take any other roles because she signed this agreement that she had to stay out of the public eye, to keep the illusion that this film was quote unquote real. And she basically, I ain't gonna say abandoned Hollywood, but it's like she signed her own death warrant, literally. And it's sad to hear that, but to keep it authentic, that's what they had to do. The Blair Witch Project came out and just swept the world by storm. Box office wise, filmmaking wise, I mean, my God, box office wise, it was bananas. It only cost $200,000 to make this movie, and if you put that in perspective, like one scene in Avengers probably cost them $2 million. That's just for a scene in an Avengers film. But to make that entire movie, the Blair Witch Project, $200,000. The movie went on to gross $248 million. It is one of the most profitable movies of all time. Of all time. I would have loved to have been a producer on this movie. This is bananas that it made that much money. But it was the marketing behind it. Now, does the film hold up now? Nah. I mean, it has its moment. It's been a minute since I watched it. Maybe about 2 years since I've seen that movie. I probably need to revisit it because I wanted to watch the other film, just Blair Witch, but I never got around to doing it. It popped in my mind randomly because I only seen it once. The one that came out a couple of years ago. I only seen it once, and I wanted to rewatch it. And I also wanted to watch this one. Not that Book of Shadows, not part 2. That was, I don't know what that was. Well, number one, it wasn't a found footage film. They didn't keep the same tone as the first film. They just went completely off the rails. But I did want to go back and watch this movie. This was I'm not gonna say it scared me. It didn't scare me, but it disturbed me. Because the ending was so ambiguous, it was so open ended. I'm like, what happened? You had more questions than answers, but it just made it that much better to me. And it's rare that happens. Otherwise, I would have been mad. I would have been mad. I hate when movies do that. Like, oh, let's make them think. I don't mind. I don't have a problem with that sometimes, but sometimes it's best to put a bow on it. It's best to answer the questions, and we didn't get it here. But that, once again, that for this film, it just made it that much better, and I appreciated it for it. Heather, that's her name. Heather was the name of that. Heather Donahue, who was the actress in this film. But yeah, man, this is this is what kicked it all off, really, to really put fuel on a little flame that was kind of started back in 1980. And we were off and running in this genre because after this film in 1999, you could pretty much say every year you had a found footage film. Every single year there was another found footage film coming out, whether it's on television, video, or in the theater. There was always one, and not just in the horror genre, but in other genres as well. They tried to make it work with other genres, and it just didn't have that same oomph. But in staying in the horror genre, I would say what about 8 years? 8 years later, it got another jolt in the arm, another shot of adrenaline in 2007 with Paranormal Activity. And that was another film that I was excited for because it looked interesting. Okay, a found footage film in a haunted house, a ghost found footage film. It's been done multiple times now, but this was like a first for me, witnessing this on the big screen. Well, no, I didn't see this on the big screen. I did not go to the theater to see this. I borrowed my friend's DVD at the time, and it was two versions on it, and that's why he wanted me to see it. I wanted to go to the theater. Something happened. I forgot, but I never got around to going to see it. And he let me use it, and it was two versions, and with two endings, I should say. It was the same movie, but it had two endings. Now, at this point, I had already been spoiled with the movie. I already knew how the movie ended, with the theatrical version. And the version he got was the original ending. And he said, watch the original ending. I'm like, okay. So I watched the whole thing with the original ending. And I was like, okay, I see why they changed it. Even though I get it. And I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it, even though the movie is, what, almost 20 years old, 18 years old, something like that. But I'm not going to spoil it for you. But I'll just say this. The original ending, if they would have kept the original ending, we wouldn't have had 50 sequels to this movie. And so they kind of changed that. But you want to know who changed it? Well, the directors changed it, of course, but you want to know who advised them to change the ending to Paranormal Activity? It was none other than Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg managed to see a screening or a copy of it or whatever. I mean, Steven Spielberg, he sees everything in Hollywood. So he contacted the director and told him, look, the movie's great. I enjoyed it, but change the ending, because if you change the ending, you can make this into a franchise. And the filmmaker being, is like, it's Steven Spielberg. Of course I'm going to change the ending. So he changed the ending, and a franchise was born. And I liked the theatrical ending of the film. Even though I liked the original, but the theatrical one kind of made sense to me. And now, once again, well, I said this is probably one of the most lucrative genres within the genre, is the fact that they're cheap. Just like the Blair Witch Project, this film was actually made, get this, for $15,000. It costs less to make this than it did the Blair Witch. Now, the reason for this is, this was basically in one room, in one house. It was in the house. That's it. They didn't have any outside shots. There was nothing else. It was just two people. Well, three, to be technical, in this movie. And he only popped in for a scene and popped out, and that was it. But this movie was probably the cheapest movie to make. Now, with post-production and all that, it grew to $200,000, with the reshoots and fitting it on film so it can be shown in theaters and whatnot. And so that was all post-production costs. But The movie went on to gross close to $200 million worldwide, making it a monster success. And you know, the other films within the franchise, I felt was just as great. I love the Paranormal Activity franchise. I almost did a whole episode on all the Paranormal Activity films, but I decided to wait. I'm gonna do that for maybe next year's Halloween special. That's how much I enjoy the Paranormal Activity films. And now, speaking of enjoying enjoying films, I'm gonna talk about my favorite within the genre so far, as of 2025. Something else may come along and take that mantle, but as of right now, uh, this movie came out in 2008, and it just I don't know what it is, and even to this day, it's hard for me to watch. It's something about this movie that touches my soul, and not in a good way. And it's a remake. It's actually a remake of another found footage horror film from Spain, I believe, and it's called Rec or Record, however you want to sauce it up. But it got an American remake the following year in 2008, Quarantine. Quarantine is my favorite found footage horror film. Don't ask me why. It's just something about that movie that resonates with me. I just love that movie. It is so disturbing. Not so much for the gore and blood and all that there, because it really wasn't all that. It was disturbing in the sense of the claustrophobic feel of being trapped in this apartment complex with these infected human beings who are out to destroy you, man. I mean, they are out to rip you apart. And the way this film was shot with the found footage cam, this is probably the best use of the found footage genre I've seen in a long time, because it is a cameraman. It's this news reporter who is shadowing this fire crew, and they go respond to this old woman not responding in her hotel in her apartment room, because firefighters are the first responders. They're the first on the scene for every call, and so they responded to it first, and they're there, and the news reporter and her cameraman is there, and they're filming everything, and the woman is infected, and the whole building ends up getting infected, and the fireman. It was just look. It's hard for me to talk. That movie. I watched it one night. Once again, didn't go to the theater to see it because I thought it was gonna be stupid. To be honest with you, it looked silly to me, and so I didn't go with the trailer. So I didn't go see it, and I end up getting it out of Redbox when they existed, or I borrowed it from her. I think I borrowed it once again from my boy. R.I.P. to my dog. I think it was him. I think I think I got it from him. I ended up buying it after, believe it or not. But I watched it one night by myself in the dark, watching this movie, and it just tore me apart. No pun intended. That movie just ravished me, man. I was sitting in the house after the movie went off, and I didn't move. I was scared to move. I didn't even want to go down the hall to my bedroom. It was that effective on me. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. The only knock I have on the film, I wish they would have followed the original, because I did watch the original, the Spanish version, not too long after I watched the American version. In the Spanish version, it is better. But I guess I connected with the American version more because I'm American. I didn't have to read subtitles while I watched it, but I did enjoy it. But they had a demonic element to the original as opposed to the American version, Quarantine. But nonetheless, great, great movies. Rec had a sequel that came out, I think, the year after this. It was all right. It was a continuation of the first film, but it didn't have the same as the other one. But hey, I liked it. I liked it regardless. Um, After that, we got just millions and millions. It feels like found footage horror films in the genre because they're fast and cheap. You can it's a quick investment for investors of films. You get your money back pretty quick because you you get your money back opening weekend with these movies, no matter where it where it ends up on the top 10. Even if it makes it in the top 10, it's still going to make its money back because you're not spending that much money on these films. And it forces filmmakers to get creative, because you got to get everything in one shot. At least not in one shot, but in one frame. You got to make sure that you're blocked right. I would imagine it's harder because you don't have the benefit of a B-roll or getting a cover shot here or a close up here where you missed it, or stuff like that. So everything has to be in one shot. you know you got to make sure that that little Easter egg that you have hanging on the wall is in the shot when you swing the camera around, or our protagonist is running through the hallway or something like that. So it is hard. I would imagine it's much harder to make these movies and to stay under budget. With all that being said, that leads me to 2012. The year 2012, we were introduced to a film that you wouldn't tell me today that we would get eighth. We would just see our eighth film in this franchise. I thought we were one and done. And honestly, I've said it many times here on this show, I am a giant anthology fan. I love anthology films. Films that contain different stories, a la Twilight Zone, the movie, and Creep Show 1 and 2, movies like that. I love anthology films, because it's like you cheating in a way. You get 4 or 5 movies in one, for the price of one. It's a joy. You walk away feeling like you got your money's worth. And so I love anthology films. And you give me a good horror anthology film, sign me up. And now you're going to add on the element of found footage. Oh man, this ought to be interesting. And not only found footage, but through the lens of a VHS. Yes, VHS came out in 2012. And boy, you would talk about loving a movie. I've watched the first VHS, I would say at least 5 or 6 times since I first seen it. I was blown away by it. And one of the main reasons I love anthologies is the fact that you can have all of these different stories and they don't have to link up together. You don't need them to link up. They're their own story. And when it came to VHS and you're shooting it like a VHS, if you're around my age, you know what a VHS camera is, videotape, and VCRs and all this here. It's kind of archaic. It's prehistoric. At least it is to my children because they don't know what a VHS is. But this really felt like a VHS. I'm pretty sure it wasn't shot on VHS, but it had the VHS feel. And all 5, I think it was 5 short stories that was in this movie, all of them hit. All of them knocked it out the park for me. And you had what appeared it to me or appealed it to me was the fact that you had this main story sprinkled in between each. That's the only thing that really connected, you know. But the other stories didn't. But they were so good. They was so good, and I was hooked from that moment on. And when they came out with another one, I think the next year, in 2013, yeah, that they came out with another one. I was like, yeah, sign me up for that too. And it was all we were off and running. All of these now, not all of the short stories worked, but they all had their place, if that makes any sense. I didn't hate none of them. That goes through all of the VHS films, all eight of them. Eight people. Yes, I'm counting the one that we're about to review in a couple of seconds here. But yeah, I enjoyed all of them, and it seems like since they started putting them on Shudder, that streaming service, it looks like they're holding a pattern of releasing them once a year around Halloween, and I'm here for them. I'm here for it. Thank you, Shudder, for these films. So, without further ado, that leads us to 2025. That leads us to now, with the release of VHS Halloween, which is currently on Shudder. It was released on October the 3rd, and this is the eighth film in the VHS franchise, and the first of the franchise to focus solely on Halloween. And now you've had a little shorts sprinkled in there throughout the eight films that take place on Halloween, but not the whole film in itself. And this film has six short films that focus on this quote unquote holiday. Let me just start off by saying all of the VHS films are messed up, man. These are some these are some disturbing movies, but this movie here, Halloween, a VHS Halloween, is probably the most disturbing of them all. For the simple fact, you have children in a couple of these shorts. Children being mutilated. They are being, and not off screen. These children are being mutilated, and it's like, wow. I don't recall. Watching a horror film, no matter what the subgenre is, have children being the focal point, not villains, but victims of this type of horror. Yeah, they'll have it, but it'll be off-screen stuff. You'll hear about it in a report or something, or off camera or something like that. No, 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 no. Not VHS, baby. We get the full show. I enjoyed all six of these films, not short films, but there are a couple of them that fall short. But for the most part, I enjoyed them all. But I do have a favorite. The list of the shorts, you have Diet Phantasma, Coochie Coochie Coo. I don't know the pronunciation. It's in Latin, but I don't even want to say it. But because of what happens in the movie, but it's what is below, or what as above is also below, or something like that. Fun Size, Kid Print, and Home Haunt. Out of all of these, Coochie Coochie Coo is my favorite. Coochie Coochie Coo is the most messed up, vile short film you ever want to watch. It was so disturbing. It was so messed up. It will make you look at breast milk in a different way. It will make you look at milk, period, in a different way. I don't know when the next time I'm going to eat cereal because of this. Because I don't want milk. I'm done with milk. You don't have to worry about me with milk. This is so messed up of a short film, and I loved every minute of it because it was meant to be disturbing. Everything about it was creepy. The way the shadows were used, looking down dark hallways and corridors and the rooms and the individuals that are running in front of them, but they run real quick. You think you saw something, but did you see it? And all this other, it was used so perfectly, and it made it so tense and disturbing and scary, and you love it. You love it. The ending of it was so messed up, and you love it. It was everything you would want out of a horror, uh, along with the camera work and the direction and the atmosphere. The acting is probably the best in this short film than any other of the short films. But I think that was purposely done on a couple of them. It was a couple of them where the acting was so bad it makes you want to cry, but it fit the tone of that particular story. And so, at first, in the first 2 minutes of it, and I'm talking about Fun Size. Fun Size will you look at the acting there, and you're like, this is so bad, but it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. 5 minutes in, you don't care. You're hooked in. It was fun. It was the fun episode. Did it fit the rest of them? No, it kind of was out of place out of the other ones, because they were so dark and disturbing. Where this one, yeah, it was dark, and yeah, it was it was disturbing, but it had a fun element to it, hence the title, that broke the levity. And I guess you kind of needed that because everything else was so moody and dark, man. And so, yeah, it fit. But I love Coochie Coochie Cool. Kid Print was another one that I didn't really. I like the premise, but I didn't really jive with the whole execution of the story, and it took it away. It kind of threw me out of it because I wanted to like it because of the premise. And this was the one, Kid Print. This was the one with the children. That was disturbing. It's disturbing, but it could have been executed a little better. What the story. It just didn't come together right to me. That's the only one that I would pick out and say like, they could have kept that. They could have kept that one, even though it had entertaining elements of it all. House Haunt. House Haunt was great. I think House Haunt in any other addition to the franchise probably would have been the best. But Coochie Coochie Cool is still. Plus, I like saying that. It's still the best. In this particular edition of VHS. But House Haunt was great, man. Then you get a cameo in there. If you know film, filmmakers. I'm talking behind the scenes people. They had a nice cameo in there from Rick Baker. Out of all people, I immediately recognized him, and then immediately was like super proud of myself because I know who he is. He's a legendary makeup artist in Hollywood. I mean, he's given us the werewolves in American Werewolf in London. He did the creature effects for the Men in Black films. He's done just outstanding work throughout his career. Legendary. Legendary. There's no other way to describe Rick Baker. He's legendary. And to see him in front of the camera and actually be funny. He actually I actually enjoyed his character so much in this film. It just added to the gravitas of this particular short film. But the short film itself was great, man. You had some great moments here. Once again, another disturbing addition where you saw children get mutilated on screen. it was, it is crazy. This was a crazy film. and I loved every minute of it. And I can't wait to go back and watch it again. I plan to, before it's all said and done, I plan to sit down and just watch all 8 of these films back to back to back to back to back to back to back. You know, it's going to be one weekend where the fam is away because they don't rock the the horror films. So I gotta pick a weekend where I'm by myself. I could just sit down and watch all of these films. But as for VHS Halloween, I give it a letter grade of a B plus. Yeah, I enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed diving back into the world of VHS. I hope they keep this up, but I hope they give us some fresh new visions here, and that's what this franchise has done. You know, Ty West has come out of this film franchise. Adam Wingard has come out of this franchise. Garrett Evans has come out of this franchise. They have all, countless others, other directors who now currently make mainstream films in Hollywood. Started off within, well, probably didn't start off per se, but were a part of this franchise at one point, or got their start here. And so I hope that these filmmakers get a shot at it because this was some great filmmaking here. Like I said earlier, you have to be innovative, you have to be smart, a hard worker, and willing to sacrifice a lot when you make a found footage horror film because it's harder, man. It is harder. You words cannot express. I know those outside of the know, uh, just a normal layman who just go to the films to watch the films and don't know about the making of and how the sausage is made, don't care. But those of us who really are into film and know that it's not just turn the camera on and action. It's more to it than that. Move the camera here and move it there. It's so much more to that. And in this particular genre, you don't have that luxury, man. You can't. Okay, the sun is pointing this direction, so we got to move the camera this way or move it back this way. No, you got to get it all and and get it all in one or two good takes and long takes at that. So that's a lot of pressure on the actors as well. And so that's why I have a lot of respect for found footage films. I really do. Not just horror, but also in other genres as well. So I I've grown to respect it. At first wasn't a big found footage guy. You remember when Cloverfield came out and everybody was up in arms about it? I I I enjoyed it. The first time I watched it, I didn't. But when I seen it at home, it was better. Seeing it on the big screen just made me nauseous. I actually had to get up out the theater and go out, stand outside for a minute because the shakiness of it all, it was making me nauseous. And so I had to walk out of the theater. But when I watched it at home, it was a different effect, and I grew to appreciate that film. But I do recognize the hard work that goes into it. But that's just the end of part one of our Halloween special. I hope you enjoyed it as we dived a little bit into the found footage genre of horror. Part two will come out next week, and part two, we're going to dive into the big daddy of them all, the Universal Monster movies. We're going to talk about Frankenstein monster. We're going to talk about The Bride and Dracula and Wolfman and Creature from the Black Lagoon and all that other good stuff. We're going back in time, man. And the challenge for that episode was rewatching all of those movies. And I'm not finished yet. I'm not 100% certain that I will finish before it's all said and done. But I had to really carve out some time and go back. Number one, find these movies and rewatch them for the show and take notes, and try to erase 60, 70 years of knowing everything, because The reason I went back and rewatched them, I really didn't rewatch them. I watched them because a lot of these movies I did not watch when I was younger. And so I wanted to be honest and fair when I talked about it. So I went back and rewatched a few of these films and grew a greater appreciation and sit currently sitting back and wondering why we haven't gotten some real good adaptations to these films to date. But that's neither here nor there. But to go along with that, just to let you know, to go along with the discussion of Universal Monster Pictures, we're going to review a film that is so near and dear to my heart that I'm currently shaking right now when I'm about to tell you the name of it because I have such a love for this movie. It's one of my guilty pleasures, I guess you could say. One of my favorite films when I was a kid. And I can still quote this movie almost line for line today. And it is none other than the Monster Squad. That will be our review for that episode. So stay tuned to it. But until then, you can email the show kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen, the KB Radio Network channel. Like this video, share this video, show your love if you don't mind, please. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to Movie Goodness here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me as we dove into our 2025 Halloween special, part 1, found footage horror films. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.